Wow, that man, a repository of information, a reservoir of great knowledge, and our thanks to James McEvoy, and you will see James on the Wednesday history program at 2 o'clock. Now, Peter is with me, Peter McEvoy. Just hear this. A few months after my 21st birthday, a stranger called to give me the news. I was living in New York at the time, on 94th, between 2nd and 1st. Part of that unnamed shifting border between East Harlem and the rest of Manhattan. It was an uninviting block, treeless and barren, lined with soot-colored walk-ups that cast heavy shadows for most of the day. The apartment was small with slanting floors and irregular heat and a buzzer downstairs that didn't work, so visitors had to call ahead from a payphone at the corner gas station, where a black Doberman the size of a wolf paced through the night in vigilant patrol, its jaws clamped around an empty beer bottle. Who's writing that?
Barack Obama.
Wow, he has come
dreams
some
of
way.
dreams of my father.
Yeah. Boy, is it
Who else?
none else
And as we
indeed.
speak, he is speaking to the young people in the Odyssey at the moment.
Well, they'll have
the
so
waterfront.
much to learn from him, because
will.
any man who comes through has that sort of provenance. It has a story to tell.
Without a question. Really, bootstraps, pulled up by the bootstraps case.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has his work cut out, though.
In what sense?
Well, he doesn't have the majority in the Senate. So any of the good work that he might feel like doing, he has to get Senate approval. And the difficulty with that is that a lot of his stuff falls when it gets to the floor of the House.
How does he do that? If he doesn't have the majority, how does he affect change and get support of the Senate?
Well,
is it about dealing?
It's dealing all the way. And a big loss as far as Barack Obama is concerned was the loss of Ted Kennedy.
Yeah.
Because Ted Kennedy, no better broker was there than Ted Kennedy for getting Republicans and Democrats across the aisle, as they say, to link up in the cause, which all politicians should be doing, in the cause of the people.
Yeah.
Charlie Hawkey, for all his faults and for all his sins, Charlie Hawkey was excellent at it.
Yeah.
And many
He
a
also
deal
wore
he
nice shirts.
and many a deal he he did. Many a deal Hawkey brokered in the Dáil that way,
Yeah.
and on our own firmament here, like in that one of the best people probably had was Jerry Fitt.
Yeah.
Jerry Fitt was able
Yes.
Jerry Fitt was able to wheel and deal right across the board, and unfortunately, politics, as you know, Rowan, is the art of the possible.
Well, it is, because you can continue hitting your head against a stone wall.
Yes.
The notion of standing on principle.
Yep.
There are very few principles upon which you have to rigidly stand, and legion of principles that demand
Yes.
your interaction, your dialogue, your discussion.
Well, obviously, we all have a fallback principle, and there's a line that most of us will not cross. I think we're going to see that very, very much highlighted, and I don't want to get onto this subject with you because I know that you have quite a bit of knowledge of it, and that's the abortion debate in the South. And we're going to see there people of principle going out of politics.
That's beginning to whistle around down
Yes,
there. They're
without a
talking
question.
about it now. But you see, my position on it, but people misunderstand understand it. It's very, very simple. If it's a choice, if the mother is going to die,
Yes.
then the care of the mother should be paramount. And if that care involves the passing away of the baby,
Yes.
so be it, having done everything possible
Yeah.
for the baby.
There is no one, I think, would disagree with that.
Yeah. But
And
where
the-
it comes
and
to
the
difficulty,
yes.
Peter, is
But-
where, when
Well, the Savita Halapanava case
Yeah.
probably highlighted a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And really and truly, it is a true fact to say that had this legislation been brought in, it would not have saved Savita.
No.
Unfortunately, Savita was the result of a series of mishaps within the hospital,
Oh, God.
which could happen if
Yeah.
the legislation were
Yeah.
passed 10 years
Yeah.
ago. But however, another big question. And I think what you really wanted to talk about, Jerome,
I think we want to talk about the G8.
Is the J8.
And the big aircraft carrier that's
and the
off
big aircraft
Grand.
carrier. That's right.
Have you seen it?
Well, I haven't seen it, but I did hear that there was a Russian one about the place too. In fact, we don't
Wow.
know. It's interesting to see. I just caught the Barack Obama coming in there along with Michelle and his two girls.
Yes.
I wonder how Putin is getting here.
Yeah, he's in.
I'm wondering, is he coming up the foil in a submarine or something like that?
It's all possible.
But anything's possible.
Keep going.
But
I'm looking for stuff here.
But the G8 itself, to be honest, is a brilliant idea. I mean, the G8 at one time, as you possibly know, was the G6.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s, and then it became the G8 as more people joined.
Who were the two added?
Well, Russia was one of the big ones. Was added in 97.
Yeah.
Mind you, three of the biggest economies in the world at the moment, Brazil, India, and China,
are not there.
Are still not there.
Yeah.
The excuse being made for that, of course, is that they're not democracies. Well, I would just like to mention some of the ones who are there. And I honestly think that it has more. You see, it's not a coincidence that Russia was brought in '97 by Tony Blair.
Yes.
And around that time, a lot of oligarchs set up in London, which then became the centre of finance in the world. So all of these things have a resonance someplace. They're never what they seem. But having said that,
go ahead.
Having said that, we are where we are, as they say, right? And it is good to think that in Ireland, not 80 miles from here, right, that the heads of 8 of the most powerful countries in the world will be sitting down to grapple with very serious global problems.
Sentamu said yesterday, the Archbishop of York, he was making the point that if the big companies started paying their taxes, then it would have a dramatic effect on wiping out hunger in the world.
Well, you possibly better than most who have travelled a lot in Africa know the problems. And it is a fact that if even 20% of the companies in the world stepped up to the plate and paid what you and I and everyone else are forced to pay, we would seriously make a difference to the hunger of Africa and of other parts of the world. But the problem is, and I do not have the faith that the politicians are talking about at the moment in companies, that they will step up to the plate.
They'll find another
way. Because it might interest you to know, and I might have to refer, just to get my facts exactly right here, to Andrew Rawnsley. But we tend to think, at the moment, Ireland has been accused of being a tax haven by a number of senators on the Hill in America. And it's true that the Googles and the Apples of this world do filter a lot of their profits through Dublin so that they can pay less tax.
Yes.
But the interesting thing about it is that whilst they're doing the UK out of tax, they're also doing Ireland out of tax, because their profits then go on to places like the Caymans and Belize and so forth and get dissipated, we do not know how.
Does there come a moment, I wonder?
Well, can I quote you something very, very interesting? Joseph Stiglitz is somebody I follow. He's an economist. He said the plastic men have capacity to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. They are everywhere when it comes to selling their goods and services. They are nowhere when it comes to paying taxes on their profits. That encapsulates everything that you could say about it. But here's the interesting part. We tend to think of tax havens as being palm-fringed islands in the Indian Ocean, and there are plenty of them, right? Closer to home, there used to be the Isle of Man, Guernsey, Jersey, Luxembourg, places like Gibraltar, right? Cameron actually has done a deal this week, and this is his contribution to the whole thing, with what they call the British protectorates, right? Places which still give allegiance to the Crown, even though they run their own operations, right? To give as much information as they possibly can about people who have money stashed abroad. So people who have money stashed abroad should be getting a little worried at the moment. But some of the biggest tax havens are in, wait for it, Nevada, Wyoming, and the US state of Delaware, which is Obama's vice president's state, right? Not to put too fine a point on it, they're all at it.
They're all
because
at it,
everybody wants to get the companies in, everybody wants to employ people, and what is the main play at the moment by Robinson and McGuinness? give us low corporation tax.
Yes.
So that we can take back some of the trade from Dublin.
Yeah.
Though they are making a bad mistake there, I think.
Does the current situation, the situation over the last 8 years in the Republic of Ireland, prove that it's really fiscal Russian roulette?
Without a
That
question.
the slightest slip,
Without
the
a
whole
question.
thing could go pear-shaped.
Well, a small example of it is this. I was in London this week, and I was looking at some property and for clients. And the property in London is just absolutely crazy. I mean, we're talking about terraced houses, which we can give you an example. Queen Street. I'm sorry, that's the old name for it. Dominic Street, Patrick Street, any of those.
Yeah.
Terraced houses there in London, starting at what? 450,000.
Wow.
Now, where did we hear this before? We heard it in Dublin a few years ago. What happened? Overnight things changed.
5 years ago, my house in Ireland, Northern Ireland, was worth 250,000.
Yep.
My house in Northern Ireland today is worth 70,000.
Yes.
You know,
but you see, here's the link in, and I'm saying to my clients, hold back here a wee second, because we're talking about property bubble here. Even though London prices continue to rise when everywhere else fell. Here they fell up to 70, 80%. In England they fell 40, 50%. London still rose. Why? It's the central base and the capital of the world for finance. But if Cameron went in too hard on these companies, right, and removed their tax status, what are they going to do? They're going to go someplace else. Maybe Dublin, maybe somewhere else. What's going to happen to the property in London? It's going to collapse.
Yep.
They are not going to risk that. They're not. Ireland doesn't have the same control because it hasn't got control over its own currency. That's the big problem with Ireland.
Will you do me a favour? Will you come back to me and talk politics to me?
I will indeed.
Yeah. What's your tomorrow like, so we can promise the people?
By all means. Are we
Wouldn't it be
talking about
nice?
local politics, or are we talking about global politics?
Any politics
Any
you want.
politics we
Look,
like.
this man is a
Not a problem.
consummate appetite for politics. He loves politics.
I love it, yes.
All the time. And we're going to explore that strange love.
Yes.
And I'd love to think of whether in the course of time, whether you in an association with all of the political tomfoolery that goes on that we've been talking about, do you have to go home and have a kind of a shower bath, a political shower bath, to cleanse yourself from an association with this?
My wife continues to say to me, please do not shout at the television. And do not. There are times I would almost break it because, I mean, yesterday it happened with Sammy Wilson and his accusing Dublin of stealing tax.
Yes.
When in actual fact that has more to do with a leadership struggle within the DUP, where Sammy doesn't want Ireland getting the sort of highlight she's getting in Fermanagh at the minute with Obama. So he has to come out with something that sounds really,
Well, look,
and who do you kick? You kick Dublin, isn't near you.
Yeah, it's easy. We're going to talk politics tomorrow, and I don't go away until I close the program.
All right, okay.
And we'll come up. So this man will be back. He's an interesting man, a huge man. You've read him constantly in the Irish news. His words are well thought out and influenced by many of the great people of the world, because he follows them astutely and with constant great interest. So tomorrow we'll be talking to Peter again. That book that I quoted from, that Barack Obama, Dreams of My Father, it's in the shops, of course. It's a good read. It tells you how you come from literally rags to riches, and that's what he has done. Okay, I close as I started today with the awful story of the death in America of Kevin Bell. Kevin in New York, young man, 26 years of age, killed instantly when hit by a van traveling at speed as he stepped out of the taxi around 3:30 yesterday morning. And